what do you know already about the system administration piece with badges? Do you know much about it already?
So only what I've read theoretically, not how it's executed. I know that there is like a rules file, and sometimes badges have to be awarded manually. Um, that's basically it.
Cool. So then we'll approach it like this. So we'll start with an overview of kind of how all these different badge pieces work, how
Mhm.
they connect together, and then I'll go through the actual steps that we'll need to take so you can get
Yeah,
set up and actually do some of these things and push new badges yourself.
yeah.
Um, so let me find a crude online whiteboard. You'd think after a year and a half of everything being online, I'd have like a regular go-to tool for this
Yeah.
kind of thing, but um, okay. So I'm gonna just try to diagram a little bit. So this is also with the context that this is all about to change soon with the new badges system. So this is what will be it's the legacy system,
Yeah.
but um, okay, so I think this will work if I can share my screen now and make sure that this actually works. Yes, okay. So I'm going to share my screen and then try to walk through what these different pieces are with badges. Here it is. Okay, can you see my screen now with the whiteboard?
Yeah. Yeah, I can.
Perfect. So with badges, it has a couple of different names. You might have seen tahrir or tahrir-api.
Yeah.
It's has a couple of different names, but what's important to know is that there's a back end and a front end component to badges, and then there's and this is not going to be technically accurate, but it's just some Fed message magic that's floating in between the
Mhm.
middle. So the pieces of badges that we interact with the most are going to be the Tahrir API, which is the backend piece, and then there is the front end Tahrir UI UX piece. So when we push new badges, we're usually pushing them up into the front end server. So let me change color here. So when we have, I'll call this just a new badge. Um, we'll push this from the Git repository that we have for all the badges. You've probably seen that repo since that's where all the issues are for
Yeah.
um, discussions. So this is also where we keep all the files, all the design assets. You probably knew that too.
Hmm.
So you can see all the SVGs and PNGs. When we take those, we start from the Git repo, and once they're added, we push them up through an Ansible playbook. That's this piece that sits in the middle here that takes them from the Git repository and pushes them to the badges. I want to say it's badges 01. It has a server name, but there's an actual server
Okay.
for the front end piece of badges. So once it's there, it doesn't just magically show up in the back end. We actually have to use this manual, I guess I'll use a red here. So there has to be a manual human step to go and take the badge and add the metadata. I'll try to write that metadata. So you actually have to add the metadata and know the URL for a badge. It's kind of complicated and
Hmm.
not at all intuitive, but you manually add it to there, and then it will trigger and cause the badge to show up in the interface for any user to earn.
I see.
So this will be how we do most of our badges, thinking of event badges, the ones that are manually awarded. Oh, actually, this is like, I think, badges backend. There might be one or two servers for this one. I'm not sure, but we'll call it backend one. So it doesn't really explain this Fed message, or I guess the technically correct term is Fedora messaging, but it doesn't explain how this piece fits in. So there's a few badges that you've probably seen the rule files for.
Yeah.
And those have a set of instructions that will listen to different kinds of events that are on the Fed message bus, anything that might be out there. And if the criteria matches, it'll run. It'll say, oh, this person has the right criteria they need to get the badge. So every once in a while, you might have a couple of badges that there's a little bit of talking between the Fedora messaging bus and the tahrir-api and how they do that awarding piece. So then the tahrir backend will know, oh, I need to give this person the badge in the front end.
Yeah.
So it's not all of these. We also have some rules that are broken. I don't know, and it's not many, but there's a few that aren't working because the Fedora messaging event, the format changed upstream.
I see.
So the best person to ask, I would say, who might know would be either Misk in the chat, maybe a Kashdeep, and I'm trying to think who the outreachy intern was who last worked on this. They probably have a better idea of the details if you were curious.
Okay.
But this really crude whiteboard drawing is, I think, a helpful overview of just how this works at a high level. Like what's actually going on behind the scenes when we go to push up a badge, when we're starting from that Git repository in the very beginning. So with that in mind, I'm going to show this next page, which you may have seen this one already, and it's pretty lengthy. How to push Fedora badges. There's a lot into it, but I'm just going to highlight the parts that actually matter, which is really just this one, the sysadmin process. I just walked you through the architecture and how that works. And these ones are just, if you ever need to look up how to do these things, helpful to know because they're a little complicated. But the day-to-day stuff, this is all you need to look at. Okay. So we're going to go through some of this pretty quickly because these you probably were familiar with, just seeing working with badges before. The PNGs, the SVGs, the YAML files, they get added to the Fedora badges Git repo. So once everything is in there, just like you might have seen, there's pull requests, just adding the PNGs and the SVGs into the repo. We don't really, as far as convention goes for this, it's nice to do pull requests. And if you're just getting started, that's a good way to propose a change and ask for a review on it if you're not sure. But once you get comfortable with it, you'll see that most folks just commit straight to the Git repo without a pull request. So that's the fastest way of doing it. Once the design team is flagged that it's ready in an issue, someone will come along and just push it to the Git repo, whatever the final version is. So that's what the prep work piece is really here, like creating this and adding it to Pagure. It's just a lot of words for what I just said. This is the piece where things start to get a little interesting. So once it's in the Git repository, you have to do, looking back here, there's this Ansible step, right? Yeah. So we have to run an Ansible playbook that's actually going to do this work of taking the badges Git repo, the new PNGs, the new SVGs, and pushing it up to the tahrir UI server. So when we're looking at that, that's out of date. Are we master main? I can't remember. That might be out of date now. But the important pieces here, every Fedora contributor, when you have CLA +1, or maybe it's a specific group, we might have to sponsor you into a fast group actually, or that might be Misk. I think it's, I think we'll have to add you to a fast group too. So this might not work right away, but you can SSH into this, they call it the Bat Cave. It's where all the Ansible playbooks are run from. So it's like the home base for all of the infrastructure work. If you ever need to run a playbook, you always have to start from the Bat Cave. So you SSH in there, and I'll explain how you have to get that set up here in a minute. You would run this command and use your password and a 2FA token to run it. And then it'll take probably, depending on your connection, anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. And then the badge, whatever the name of the PNG file is, it'll be online. You can actually go and see it in badges.fedoraproject.org, and it'll be there. So that's the piece where, right. So the tahrir, it's in the UI, but the badge doesn't actually exist yet. So this is the part where now, and there is an extra step here. If you have the rules file, rules files are great, but in practice, we don't have a lot of those badges come up a lot these days. So most of the work is these manually awarded badges.
Yeah.
So that's where it's a very specific step. And actually, I can probably show you this, but you have to go into the badges.fedoraproject.org site, and there's an admin interface. Do you know if you have access to the badges admin view?
I don't think so, because wait, let me check.
If not, that's something we can also work with, either NB, or it's not too difficult to add someone. I think it's actually on that same page. But if not, that's okay. I'll just show you what the view looks like in the current system and give you an idea of where you have to go. So there's a lot of options here, but the one that matters is just badges. Add a new badge. So this is a very delicate form. You have to be very. It doesn't like making mistakes, so it's best if you can get it right the first time, because it's really hard to change this stuff later. So for a new badge, we'll say, I'll just do like the examples. We'll say awesome badge. And if you remember in that last step where I said, once you push the badge up, it's visible at the badges. So you'll have to go and find that URL manually, look it up, and then paste that into the image field. And it has to be exact. No extra spaces. It has to be just the URL. Description, that's nothing new. This is an awesome badge. Again, sometimes just a common thing that happens is you can leave hanging white space, and if you do that, it makes the badge look really weird. So just again, always double check as much as you can what you put in here. Criteria, this is what we usually look at for the badge ticket. So I'd go to any of these issues and find the badge ticket, and that's what you'd link wherever the badge was designed. So like for the Academy one, this is where that link is going to be added from when it gets pushed. Issuer, don't have to worry about that. Tags are very particular too, mostly because not all tags are the same. Where do we mention it here? Yes, so it's maybe could be a little more emphasized in the docs part of the page, but it's just a comma delimited list of whatever tags you want to use. Some of the tags are special. I was hoping that this would actually list them out, but we'll probably have to go and look at the actual badges here. So 4 of them will get the badges to show up in the main categories that we use with the design templates, with the different backgrounds. So I think I could just open one of each just to show. So here's a content badge for Sensei. We'll do an event. We'll just look at 3 just to start. So you'll see, usually they all have some kind of miscellaneous. This one is just a single tag, actually, just content. But in order for a badge to show up as content, it needs to be tagged as content. For events, here's a good example. So Academy, you can find all the event badges that have ever been made for an Academy event, but then the event keyword is the magic keyword that gets it to show up in the events page. This one's got a bunch of tags, but I think it's just quality, if I remember right. The rest, I think, is just the other ones they use for this stuff. But I think I need to double check that. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's quality, but
Yeah, it is. It is.
okay, cool. So that's something that's easy to overlook, but it's really important and can just be notoriously hard to fix. But once you put all that information into the badges interface, you'll do that, double check what you put in, and hit add badge. And then you'll get a notification, the badge has now been created, and you can go find it, and it will be on the Explorer badges page as one of the most recent badges. And it's always good to double check too, because I've seen a bug where sometimes the tags don't get set from this form, and you have to go and add them manually. That's one of the few things you can change about a badge. Not deleting tags, not editing tags, just adding new ones.
I see.
So I think if I show here, just to give you an idea what that looks like, I don't know if I have to be a badge awarder. No, okay. So any badge admin can go here to a badge and add a tag. So you can always do that after you create one if it doesn't set. No big deal.
Okay.
So I think that's the important stuff. Oh, and then of course, usually it's the sysadmin's job, whoever ends up pushing the badge and doing that final step, just making sure that you actually go and close out the Pagure ticket, because we're the last stop on the trip of a badge making it to production. So that's the last piece of the day-to-day, what really goes into pushing up another badge. So there are some, I'll pause there just to see if you have any questions before I talk about some of this other stuff. Does this make sense? Were you able to follow this?
Yeah, actually, it seems not that intimidating now.
It's a very delicate system. That's all. It just takes some patience to understand.
Yeah.
It was made a long time ago. So with that in mind, actually, I'll go back up to the table of contents here. There are some things that every once in a while things don't go right, or you have to fix things. This is a good overview. Well, actually, yeah, some of these are still valid. You can do some things once you get set up with your SSH key, which I'll talk about in a minute. You can actually log into some of these servers and do manual scripts if you wanted to award a badge for someone to their FAS account. There are some scripts that exist on the server that you can run, and also revoking a badge, things that you can't do from the front end. This is actually a better example. So sometimes a badge gets accidentally awarded or you need to take it back. There's just one special script that exists to do that. Same for adding new admins. This is what we'll have to do with your FAS account too, to add new admins so you can get all that badge view. There's just an Ansible role that Fedora infrastructure maintains. And of course, the link has changed. Our documentation's out of date. But there's some folks in the chat that I know where this exists. We've edited it relatively recently. So that'll be just a question we can share with the chat. There's some other things in here that this is actually talking about the UI. There's a couple of other scripts. Honestly, though, I'll be honest, a lot of these things we don't use. Once you have access to the badges admin interface, the things that are worth noting is invitations. So let's say for Nest or for Flock, when we want to create a badge, so or an invitation. Wait, I take that back. I'll show you how to do that, but it's not in the admin portal. It's really confusing to do it from here.
Okay.
So awarding badge, this is another one. Say you don't have an authorization. Actually, let's go bottom to top. That'll make a lot more sense. Starting first with an authorization. That's what gives you the right to give someone a badge, even if you're not a badges admin. So let me look at one of badges I know I have authorization for, just to show you what I mean. There's maybe have you ever had that when you were able to award a badge to someone else?
No, but I know like Marie does that sometimes when she has like certain badges that only she can award for events and stuff.
Yes, exactly. So when you have that right or that privilege, I'm pretty sure I have it for this badge. Yes. So you see there's these two options here. And There's one that if you just want to directly award it to someone, you type in their FAS, and that's all you do. It takes some time. It's not a fast operation. It might take a minute to complete, but it will complete. Just be patient, or it'll give you it'll give you an error code if it doesn't. It won't just hang forever, or shouldn't. This is the part that I think matters for invitations. And actually what I'll often do with as a badges admin is I'll give myself the authorization and then go to the badge page to make an invite. If, like for a flock, or nest, we want to do it just because I find it easier to do here. So you just have to be very specific with the time. And actually, I think I can actually do this and just give an example here. So let's create this invitation that will expire at the end of the year. It's a really long time away, but that's okay. You have to be specific with a time or else it won't set. It really does matter. But you'll see once I've created that, I have an active invitation and I have two options. The one that's the magic claim URL. And then I hope this still works. Yeah. Oh, okay. So it still makes the QR code. So you can take that and it will give you the same thing. That's how you link it up in the design ticket or the badges ticket. If someone needed it, that's where it would come from. I don't know if I can revoke that now. It might just have to sit for 6 months. I have never ever, it's been a long time since I tried that, but still the use case here, one more thing I'll mention is like, how do you do these authorizations? Again, it's very particular. So first thing you'll have to look up is the badge ID, which is the name of the badge PNG file most often, but with some older badges, it's not that way. What's always true is the URL of the badge. So whatever ends up showing up in the URL bar, when you open up the badge, that is the badge ID. So we'll see here, this one, even though it's called associate editor and there is a white space there and the E is capital, what matters is associate-editor. That's the badge name. So if I wanted to give myself that authorization, I'd take the badge ID, paste it there. Again, no white space. And this is also a weird thing, but you have to use your FAS account email address as the person email. Formatted exactly like that. Anything else will not work. So it's very particular for that. But once you do that, that's what will give you when you go, well, I don't have it on this badge, but on that last one or the ComOps one. That's how I got it on that view. So another thing I'll mention is sometimes if you just have a one-off badge, like if it's just like one person you need to give a badge to, sometimes that's just easier to do from the admin interface. Same deal here, just the badge name, the person's FAS account at fedoraproject.org. You can actually issue a badge into the past if you format it exactly the way it's shown there. So sometimes I would do that for someone's like, oh, I was at the flock dinner and I forgot, I didn't get to scan the badge. And I'll be like, okay, I put the timestamp of that. I'll group them with all the other badge claims so it's not so far apart. But that's just if you want to be extra nice or if you have a specific reason. So awarding that, click the button and you're done. It'll award the badge to the person. The rest of these things, like, you can create those invitations from here. It's unfortunate that these things existed and we were never able to they never really took off, but we don't use milestones, series, or teams. So you'll never have to touch those. Issuers, we don't ever don't ever have to edit those. And people's, we don't have to do that too, because it's all set up with the FAS account. So really it's just the bottom half of this page. That's the actual useful part. But that's for next steps that we'll need to take away from this. We'll need to make sure that you are added to the tahrir config file with your FAS account so you can get the admin view. You already have membership in the Fedora badges group, so you already have commit access to this repository. You can already do that. One thing that will be new is you'll have to set up an SSH key for Fedora infrastructure. So do you already have an SSH key or will that be something new?
No, I don't. No, it will be something new for me.
Okay. Are you on Linux, Windows, or Mac?
Windows.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to share this little how-to guide to create. There's lots of guides and info out there on creating SSH keys, but this is a more up-to-date or more modern way of doing it, and it'll be easier to copy and paste files. It won't give you a huge file to work with, so that's one benefit to it. But you'll need to make an SSH key with this and just follow the instructions to do it in PowerShell. And then you can use that with Git later on. Or actually, with SSH, I mean to say, when you log into the Fedora infrastructure server, once you have that key, you'll have to go to the Fedora account system, accounts.fedoraproject.org. You'll sign in, go to your settings, and there's a special option in settings for SSH and GPG keys. So you'll paste, this is my SSH key, just the public key, not the private key. You'll paste the public key into there. And if I remember right, once you're added to the FAST group that gives you special access, actually, I think I can show it here. Maybe I can actually add you. Let me see if I have that right. Sysadmin badges. I do not have it. So that will probably have to be in B, but we'll have to add you into that group. And once you've added your SSH key to your FAST account, I think it takes 48 hours or so for your key to sync to the server. And then you'll be able to just go ahead and log in. So you'll see like for me, when I go to do it, I go SSH jflory7 at backcave01.iad, which is the data center that the server is hosted in, and it takes me there, or should. Yep. So you get a really long message when you log in with lots of info, but you'll see this is the host name. You can see who you are, and you can see there's a couple of other folks hanging out here, logged in on the server tonight too. So. But that's something, once you get into the FAST group and you have the SSH key in, you should be able to log in and do the same things that I'm doing here as well. And if I wanted to do, like, do I have it? Yeah. So if I wanted to, so I just pushed a badge to the, do I have my YubiKey? That's a good question, and I don't think I do. There's a couple of ways. I forgot about that too. In order to do this step, you'll also have to look into a two-factor authentication key. Now, back in the day, it used to actually require a YubiKey, which is a hardware device. It's like a token. You press a button on it, and it's. I don't see it come up a lot, but I think you can use like Google Authenticator, Authy, Microsoft Authenticator, those kinds of things. I'm pretty sure it's possible to set that up now. I'll see if I can find some documentation, or maybe someone in the badges chat can link to that. But you'll have to do this step, because when you go, just like when it's asking me for my password, what I have to do here is type my Fedora account system password, and then whatever the two-factor token is, whatever the 6-digit PIN is. And that's how I could run the playbook. And then it will go and take the Git repo, and this is the playbook. This is the exact one that will take it all and push it to the badges front end server. It's actually a bummer. I could have sworn I saw it on my desk. It'd be cool to demo that for this, but I don't think I have it right now. That's okay. But this, I think, it was a lot of info to go through, and it probably will take a little bit just to get up to speed on all of this. And it gets a lot easier once you do it the first time and you get a feel for how it all works, and you see it actually work and happen. But the best thing to keep in mind as you go forward is this page, but really just the sysadmin process section. That's where the most critical information is, and this is what happens most often. The rest of this stuff, helpful at times, but not really critical. So this would be a really helpful place. If you ever forget anything, you can look at this, and I'll
Yeah.
make sure that this video gets on YouTube too, so you can look back at the recording. But that's
It
that's all that I had in mind, I think, unless you have any specific questions or follow-ups.
it actually now makes so much more sense, the documentation, because just looking at it, it seems so scary because all I could see was a bunch of code.
It's
I'm like,
long.
yeah, it's a lot. So now it actually seems, oh yeah, that's logical, and yeah, I feel like, why did I not understand this in the first place? How could I not? It seems so intuitive
Well,
now.
there's some history to that docs page. Once upon a time, there was a tahrir sysadmin docs, and then Fedora infrastructure had their own docs, and then Fedora badges had its own docs in Pagure and its own repo. So that was something I remember, like it was 2018 or 19. I sat down and I was like, okay, these 3 pages are going to become one. And it ended
Yeah.
up being a really long page. So if you ever want to work on that or maybe help or pull something out, improve the docs, that's also a
Hmm.
very welcome contribution, because you are definitely not the first person to look at that and say, wow, information overload.
Yeah, yeah. I think even adding, like at some point, if I can get to it, just adding screenshots would help a lot,
Mm,
because generally, even like when I'm following guides or something, screenshots, it make everything so much more easier, because I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing is right. Yeah, this is what I should be seeing on my screen right now.
makes sense. Well, I'll definitely make sure that this gets up on YouTube too, so you
Yeah,
can look back on this and
yeah,
actually share it with VidPoll too. There was a bunch of folks who were
yeah.
curious about how this black magic works with badges.
Yeah, because the other day I was going through the badges repo and I saw that there were quite some badges which were ready to push. And I'm like, man, I just wish I can, like, because I have time right now. I want to. I just don't know how. Like,
How?
these tickets could be closed in like a little while. I just need to push them. They've been done. They've been open for so long. People have, like, so many people have worked on it now. All we need is like a one final push and it would be
Yes.
done.
So definitely then the folks that we'll need to link up with to finish this and make sure that you get the access you need will be either NB, Misk,
Hmm.
or Siddharth, the Vipul one. I always I work off of fast accounts. But
Yeah.
um, any of those 3 folks will be able to have the rights. They'll know where to update the right files. It's
Hmm.
just 2 things we have to do: adding you to the fast groups and adding you to the SSH, or getting the SSH key set up.
Yeah.
So once that's done, also a heads up, I hate to say this, but being on this group also means you'll get a lot of email very soon, very abruptly. There's a
Oh
lot of,
no.
so you might want to also look at setting up some email filters to just redirect. I have one. It just redirects all of these things that are fed message errors from badges to the trash. I have to, because sometimes it's not that bad. Sometimes it's hundreds, if not thousands a day. And I'm like, oh my God, stop.
Really?
At the worst.
No.
Misk has fixed most of it. It's not as bad as it once was, but a few
Wow.
hundred a day it happens time to time.
Wow. That's a lot.
So
I have to keep my inbox like clean at all times. I can't in there. Used to happen so much with like Fedora mailing lists. I actually sat down and I had to go through it a couple of times because there were so many different mailing lists. I'm like, I can't go through all of them. I have to send them to the red folder because I can't deal with them manually.
so I definitely, if you haven't checked out filters yet, this one may make you want to consider that.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know which one. I think it's during outreachy season. That is when I was like, okay, I need to
Summer coding.
I need to set up filters now. Yeah, that's when I set it up. And after that, I completely forgot because I thought, because that was my only way of getting like information or updates about the like open tickets and stuff. Now I'm like, okay, so
Hmm.
everything is seems like nothing much is going on, but what happening is all my emails are going to the red inbox directly. So I'm just not looking at them. There's still a lot of stuff that needs to be done. So yeah.
I hear you. It's tough, even with me with my inbox. There's times where I get it to be in that nice place where I want it to be, and then like for me last week, I came back from a long like from my first vacation in the pandemic,
Mhm.
and it was just huge backlog, just trying to work through everything. That was
Yeah.
pretty much my week was just email.
Yeah. Takes a significant chunk of your time and mental energy. Doesn't sound like much, but like going through emails is so tiring.
It is. It is a task.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I will have to. I'm gonna go ahead and jump off and get ready to wrap
Yes.
up as I start pretty early in the day here. So I'll go ahead and get this uploaded to YouTube with the recording and share it with you once it's all set.
Awesome.
And if you have any other questions, you can ask in the badges group. I'm in there, but also there's other folks, Misk and Akash. There's some
Indeed.
other folks who can help.
Hmm.
And NB, yeah, we'll have to get NB's help or Nick's help to get you access there too.
Yeah,
So don't be afraid to ask questions there. There's a lot of folks there who can help.
definitely. Thank you so much for this. I know it took a long time, so thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this.
No problem. Well, hey, it's recorded, so it'll be around forever.
Yay. Yay. That's awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, nice to catch up with you, Smira. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye bye. Thank you again.